Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I always appreciate it. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic movie review. This is my review of a great black and white comedy drama film from 1939, directed by the great Frank Capra. The movie stars Jimmy Stewart in one of my favorite roles he was ever in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Jimmy Stewart is one of my favorite actors of old Hollywood, having appeared in another Frank Capra classic, It's a Wonderful Life. Of course, a couple of great Alfred Hitchcock movies like Rear Window and Rope, of which I do have reviews of those movies on my channel if you want to check those out. Those are great films. He was also in one of my favorite westerns, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. And this is one of those movies that I used to always watch every now and then, but on my most recent rewatch of this movie, this also has the great Claude Rains, who is one of my favorite actors of old Hollywood as well, appearing in movies like Casablanca and The Wolfman and The Adventures of Robin Hood. And I believe he was also in Notorious, another great film by Alfred Hitchcock. At the very beginning of the film, the news breaks out that a certain senator has just passed away, and a small group of politicians that are trying to get this dam built, and they need another senator to help back this bill to get this dam built in a certain area, kind of scramble to find a replacement for this senator. And in finding this replacement, everybody kind of has their own idea of who they want, but there's a certain governor that's having dinner with his family one night, and his children feel very strongly about a certain person that is kind of a nobody, but is kind of a hero to a lot of young boys, since he's like this leader of this boy rangers group. The man who the senator's kids keep strongly recommending to their father is known as Jefferson Smith, who isn't a politician but is kind of known as a hero since he helped stop this big fire. And one of the kids even takes out a newspaper and puts it in front of his dad, slapping it on the table, and there's a picture of him and an article that speaks very favorably of him. And the father still isn't very impressed, and so he takes out a coin to flip it to pick between the two people that he has in mind. But when the coin doesn't land on heads or tails, it kind of just stands up on one side right next to the paper that speaks very favorably of the Jefferson Smith character. The father just kind of just has a moment of inspiration and decides that this guy who really isn't a politician, so he might be very kind of easy to manipulate, he just figures, let's pick this guy. Very soon after that, we see James Stewart's character, Jeff Smith, arrive in Washington, very kind of wide-eyed and naive, and also very friendly, very idealistic, very kind of down-to-earth guy. And the press kind of gets to him pretty quickly, kind of bombards him with all kinds of pictures, and they start putting up all kinds of headlines that aren't too favorable when it comes to making a new senator look like a guy that belongs there, since they kind of depict him as kind of a country bumpkin. But there's a very great moment after he arrives in Washington where he's kind of just walking around, checking out all the monuments. And it's a great piece of filmmaking. It's actually very well done as far as montages go. And there's some really great kind of transitions and dissolves. Watching the character of Jeff Smith, newly arrived in Washington, checking out all the monuments and really kind of soaking it all in, you can see that he's very proud to be an American. And it's kind of inspiring to see, especially at the scene where he's at the Lincoln Memorial. And it's a great performance because Jimmy Stewart doesn't say a word throughout the whole montage. And even though he's just kind of looking at everything, taking it all in, doesn't say a word, with his expressions, you know exactly what he's thinking, and it comes across beautifully in the film. Soon thereafter, Jeff meets veteran Senator Joseph Payne, played by the Invisible Man himself, the great Claude Rains. And Jeff has much admiration for this senator because he was once a close friend to his father, and they both worked together. And Senator Payne also really respects Jeff because he is his father's son. And so there is a great dynamic between these two characters, and you really see that Claude Rains' character does care for Jeff. There's also the very vital and important character of Clarissa Saunders, who is the secretary to Jefferson Smith in the movie, and her character feels like a very progressive 1930s female character. She is very well versed in politics, she's very intelligent, she can also hang out with the boys and kind of dish it and take it with the best of them. And she starts out as kind of cynical, but the more she spends time with Jefferson Smith, the more she kind of warms up to him because he is such a nice guy. And then the more we see them spending time together, we see that she does have more of a heart. And she's a great character. She's played by Jean Arthur in the film, who I really enjoyed in Shane as well. Jean Arthur is very good in this movie, and the dialogue scenes are very fun to watch because it's that kind of 1930s quick, snappy dialogue between her and her co-star James Stewart that is very entertaining, very well written. And the more you watch James Stewart in the role of Jefferson Smith throughout the movie, the more he becomes really kind of endearing just because of how earnest he is, and because James Stewart always brings that quality to many of his roles. All of this culminates in a very powerful, memorable, and moving finale where we have a sequence of Jeff addressing Congress, and he has to stay on his feet. He can't stop talking, and he even brings out snacks, and people are trying to mess him up, and people kind of come and go, and everybody's trying to discourage him. And you can see the president of Congress sitting there, and every now and then he has kind of a smile, and you can see that he's kind of inspired by Jeff and his attempts to kind of sway everybody. And it's one of the most inspirational scenes I've ever seen in a film. And this movie was even spoofed a bit on The Simpsons. There was an episode back in the day where Mel Gibson was doing a remake of this movie, and the studio kind of tried to hack it up and mess up the ending and turned it into an action movie at the end. Pretty hilarious moment in The Simpsons. And but yeah, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is a classic film. It is a 4-star masterpiece of a movie, and I highly encourage anybody to give this one a watch. This is a very highly respected and revered film, so I think you can find this on streaming. But in case you want to get yourself a hard copy, just know that they are out there. This is my copy of the Blu-ray, the 75th anniversary edition, and you can see there the great James Stewart as Mr. Smith, standing in front of one of the great Washington monuments, holding his briefcase. And yeah, this is a great time. Highly encourage you check it out. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. One of the greatest black and white films ever made, and one of the greatest films, period, as far as I'm concerned. It is one of my all-time favorites. Thank you all very much for watching this classic movie review. If you're new to this channel, and if you're into classic films, hit the bell, subscribe. I'm always talking about classic movies. Every now and then I might talk about something new, but for the most part, I am a classic movie kind of guy. It's what this channel is all about. And so if you're into that kind of thing, join the fam. You know, still kind of growing. It's still a relatively new channel. And thank you very much if you're a supporting viewer. I appreciate it. And don't forget to please share, comment, like. Helps out the channel and everything. And don't forget to look out for the next classic movie review. Everybody take care of each other. Peace out. God bless. Till next time.